everyone, and welcome to the Top Drive Show, episode 6.
Yeah.
So, welcome back. I know that we did one last week, but we wanted to get back because we already had a lot of really cool questions, and we've got an awesome event coming up this weekend that we wanted to talk about. So, welcome back to the Top Drive Show. So we're going to go into some questions first of all. The top voted comment, I know we haven't given you much time, but so far is from Casual Mobile Gaming. It just says, yeehaw, a free carbon fiber pack. You don't win another pack for saying that, because you didn't ask a question.
Yeah.
Nice try. However, we do have a bunch of other questions, so we're going to go straight in with one of those. This question from Doug Bido that says, I'd love to see a campaign expansion. We've talked a little bit about that before, but more specifically, they're asking about the new environments like Santa Monica, Tokyo, and the Canyon. It could open up a few awesome challenges. They would also be nice ways to get some of the newer cars.
Yeah. So, just to recap, we probably need to make an archive of here's the questions we asked in the past, right?
We have one.
They are. Where do you look?
There's an FAQ section.
Yeah.
I think it's in the help shift.
In help shift in Top Drives.
Yes.
Right, you go settings, help, FAQs, and there's things.
That sounds right.
That's a sensible place to put it.
There you go.
Good. All right.
Yeah.
But just to quickly recap from last time, extending the campaign as it was doesn't quite work because you reach a point where you can't just get better and better cars and overcome harder and harder obstacles. You kind of reach the ceiling of how good cars are. So we'd have to implement campaign extension in a bit of a different way. We've got some ideas about doing it. We're quite keen to do it. It's not going to be easy or that quick, but if we were to do it, I do think utilising some of the new locations that we have makes sense.
Yeah.
And obviously utilising the new cars that we've added as boss cars and cars that you win would make sense as well. That's a sensible way to do it, I think.
It absolutely makes sense. The next question we've got here, and this one is for a carbon fiber pack, so congrats to Brandon Miller for asking, please explain in more depth how mid-range acceleration is determined in game.
Right, yeah, so cars have a acceleration sort of profile depending on exactly how the car is built and geared and everything. I mean, I'm not the car guy, but I've learned from Top Drives all about this. And one car might be quicker to 0 to 60 and slower to 100 and so on. And so, we have to include that in the game. We have to model it. The difficult part, as I understand it, is it might seem weird, but some manufacturers don't want us to share all those other stats. How fast is it to 80 or 100 or 120 or whatever? People have said, can't you just get all those numbers from them? And they're not that keen on sharing all of them all the time, not all of them. And so to be fair to the whole game, we go, all right, we'll just show the 0 to 60 and the top speed, but the other speeds in between, they're in there, they're modelled, we've sourced data for them, and that's why you'll see some cars get to 100 or 120, 150 faster than others. Even if the 0 to 60 and top speed on their own don't suggest that that's what it would do. So, I mean, there's a difficult one on that for corrections, in that it's harder for players to go, this car should be faster to 0 to 120 or whatever than you've got it, because you'd have to look very closely at a race and note the speed and the time and, figure that out. But we try to keep on top of it. In particular, if somebody corrects the 0 to 60 and we look it up and go, the 0 to 60 is different, we'll take another look at the other speeds as well, just to make sure. So it's like in the same way that we have 0 to 60 and top speed, we look it up and we put it in, we just can't show it, but it is there.
There you go. And we'll jump straight into the next carbon fiber question from Sabu Ka, who asks, what do you guys say about the top speed limiter in mini German cars?
Right.
So this is sort of related.
Yeah.
Since the top speed is limited, shouldn't they be able to hit 150 miles an hour really quickly and then stay there? Or at least hit it at the end of the test ball or whatever. They're saying what's happening at the moment is that it's just sort of creeping up to that speed.
Yeah. So, and again, we covered it a little bit earlier, I think. I think it is correct that the way that they are correct, that the game is a bit wrong, and that it doesn't behave as it should. I don't think it would slam straight into the speed limit. It probably would ease into it, I suspect, given how these limiters work. But no, it doesn't work as it really should. And then when you upgrade it, you sort of somehow upgrade your speed limiter so you can go a little bit faster, which isn't really how it would work.
Oh, you can remove those things. It's just that some of them have parts that are designed only to operate at that speed or below.
Yeah.
So it's a bit dangerous.
It's true that those cars currently work in a bit of a strange way. Tuning is a bit of a made-up thing the way we do it anyway, but it would be nice to do that more sensibly. We'd have to get some good data on quite how it works. I'd like to see that. And then there's also the possibility of, like, could you unlock the speed limit, or could there be a different version of the car, like sometimes sold with like a performance pack which has it unlimited? And then of course we'd need to source the data for the higher top speed and everything. These are all, good refinements that we'd like to get to as a game that's trying to be authentic. But as we'll come on to a bit later, there's some more important issues with the simulation that we really should get to the bottom of first.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Time for another question. This one comes from JP. The question is, do we think we could make a safety feature for gold and cash? For example, one more step asking to confirm the purchase of a pack. They're saying that they've accidentally bought packs before with gold and it's set them back trying to save gold for bigger purchases. So essentially just a confirmation box about what you want to spend.
Yeah. So it's a user experience question. Does come up. I've been playing for a year. I did buy a pack accidentally once. Support was able to fix it for me and undo it. But your mileage may vary there. If you're doing that all the time, they might start to get suspicious or whatever. I've seen it done in other games. It is obviously a thing that we could do. There's a sort of user experience difficulty around it in that if it comes up all the time, you get very used to buying everything going, buy yes, and the risk is you could still make almost as many mistakes because you've just autopiloted that. I think you'd probably have fewer, like you sat on your phone and it bought a pack mistakes, so that's true. The balance is like, how often does an accidental pack purchase happen? Like maybe, I don't know, if my example's true, 1 day out of 300. How many times do you buy something in the game? Maybe 10 times a day, so 3,000. So you'd have to press a confirmation button 3,000 times over that whole period to save yourself one mistake. That's the balance. So it's a lot more tapping overall. So it's not immediately obvious that's a much better user experience. I think I saw one game that had this cool feature where I think you could set your own threshold and say, if the purchase is more than this, give me a confirmation dialog box, and if not, then don't. That was pretty cool, got to admit.
Okay, that sounds pretty nice.
I don't know. I'll put that to the guys, see what they think about that.
Okay. We've got a question now from Powell Black asking, so you remember last time we showed the Santa Monica area?
Yeah.
And there was a race where the cars go through a car wash. So they're asking, will cabrios and roadsters DNF on that track?
Right, yeah. So the car wash is not active. There's not water coming out. You don't have to worry about that. It does have speed bumps, right? You can't just shoot through a car wash. So you might want to watch out in your low ground clearance vehicles if you're coming up to that car wash. But no, don't worry about the water.
Okay. So I'm picking this question up specifically because it's not really one question, but many people are asking it. I'm going to paraphrase slightly. When will we see premium Italian supercar manufacturer in top drives?
Oh yeah, that one.
That one, yeah. And the other one that's almost the same as well, those ones.
That one
and the other one that's actually Swedish as well. People want that one as well.
Right, but mostly the first one and a bit the second one.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so the way it works with licensing is that we can't confirm or say anything until a deal is done.
Yep.
Some cars are harder to license than others. Some are more expensive than others. We are and remain interested in getting every car that we can into the game.
Yes.
But I can't say anything specific. There's going to be more manufacturers added. So can't really say anything other than wait and see.
Yep. Maybe one day you will be able to play Top Drives and use premium Italian supercar manufacturer. But for now, that's that side of the question. Yeah. Now, slightly more serious question from Baby Minder, who asks, 4-wheel drive and all-wheel drive aren't the same thing. Can we separate those?
Right, yeah. So we had this in the, I don't know if we had it in beta or if it was just in a development version we had. We were making this distinction, and in the end we decided it was kind of too subtle. The game is for car fans and people who know this stuff, but we hope to find a bit of a wider audience than that. And some people already find it a bit confusing, going, what's rearward, footward? What's the difference? What's that going to do? And maybe you can learn some things over time in this game, but we thought that was a bit too much of a subtle distinction to make, so we just said, it's 4-wheel drive, don't worry about it. Yeah.
Okay, well, there we are. And we've got another question here from the collector, who has asked 2 questions in one, asking firstly, these Hutch mugs strategically placed in shot, is it product placement if it's actually our brand?
I don't think it is.
No. So actually, we're not even doing this on purpose. It's just that we always drink out of these. They're not really available, are they? As merchandise?
No, we've not really got into physical merch that much. I looked into it a little bit actually, but it's surprisingly annoying, especially compared to how easy digital distribution is. I mean, there's some annoying things about that as well, but we publish it to the stores and then everything happens. Yeah. Merch has to get posted all around the world. I would like to get into merch, but it's not going to be this year for sure.
It would be pretty tough. Also to do with sort of physical merchandise, I guess, in a weird way. People are asking, collector is asking, will the Top Drives team at any time show up to any of the big gaming shows in the US, like E3 or PAX, anything like that? Do we have any plans to go to an American show, or any show for that matter?
Right. I mean, some of us do go to some of the gaming shows.
It's true.
But yeah, I don't know about any of those in particular.
Yeah, and usually it's sort of, we're more on the industry side of it, so sending people to conferences rather than to public shows.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, because Top Drives has just grown and grown ever since it's come out, so it might make more sense for that than anything else. I have to think about that.
Oh, there you go. You heard it here first. We'll have to think about that.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Yes. Let's talk about Austin Challenge series.
Yeah, this is a new thing that you will see coming very soon. So a bunch of players noticed when we added Austin to the game, they only have 6 cars, they're all common, and they're all prize cars.
Right.
So I was like, what's going to happen there? So this is it. It's time to win those Austins, and here's how it's going to work. We feel like there's not enough long-term play in Top Drives, and we have these tri-series over the course of like 10 days where winning car here helps you for this one, and then you win a cool prize car. I thought it would be nice to have something longer term, and so the way it's going to work is the Austin prize cars are going to be given out as a prize for one of the weekly challenges, and that's going to happen every 2 months, I think. So over the course of a year you can get them all. After each one there will be a special, and we've not done this before, a special weekend challenge where you have to have an Austin to get into it, and that will award ceramic carbon fibre packs, which people have asked for in the challenge before, so now this is how you do it. And then at the end, there will be the ultimate challenge, which will require 5 Austins to enter, and there's 6 in total, so you could have missed one and you can still get in. If you can overcome that challenge, then you'll get another prize car, the 1978 Porsche 935 Moby Dick, which is a bit of a legend in game and in real life. Turns into a bit of a sort of long-term whale hunt. You've got to find the white whale. You've got to find Moby Dick. It's going to take a year. And the idea is to reward players for doing the things that we think the game is all about, which is like playing it as a hobby over a sort of long period of time, and having a decent garage across all of the main areas. So each of the Austin challenges will test the depth of your garage in a certain key area. And the first one is going to be the US. It's a good time to do that, I think. So yeah, you're going to see an Austin challenge come up real soon, and you definitely want to get that Austin, because that's going to help you in every subsequent Austin weekend challenge, and it'll also then get you into the ultimate final Austin challenge to win the Moby Dick.
There you go, let's do that. The next thing we're going to talk about are the fixes that have gone into the hill climb challenges. So, Tim, what have we been up to?
Yeah, so there's a bit of a tricky one here. You know, when you, I don't know, fix a thing in your house, and in fixing it you reveal something else that needs fixing. It's a bit like one of those.
Basically, like anything to do with code.
Yeah, it's a bit like that, because it is code. There was a big problem with hill climbs in that there was some sort of bug, and it eventually found out to be some sort of legacy code that was getting activated. That's why I couldn't see it in the straight code. Not that I'm the engineer looking at it. I asked them to show me how it works, and I was like, I don't see it. And then a proper engineer investigated it and found what was going on. So heavier cars were going up hills faster. That is not right. No amount of hand waving about added traction is going to fix that. If you want to get up a hill, you don't put a bunch of sandbags in the back of your car.
No, that's not a thing.
So yeah, we fixed that, and then it turns out that revealed this other problem, which we already knew existed, and that was that the way in which we calculate traction is derived from is your car four-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, or whatever, and what kind of tires do you have, and there was this thing that we'd realised, especially when we were looking at drag races in off-road conditions, when we were testing the 959 Dakar in particular. You could see that four-wheel drive cars with performance tyres were doing really surprisingly well, and getting more traction than you'd expect. And it turns out to be the way that was handled, that the four-wheel drive was sort of giving it loads of credit for traction, and then the tyres was only a tiny modifier on top of that. So that was kind of annoying and made off-road drag races a bit weird. But now that we fixed the hill climb weight bug, it's revealed that, oh no, that problem is happening there big time, especially because a lot of the four-wheel drive all-surface cars that you think would be great at that are really heavy. And a bunch of four-wheel drive performance tyre cars are lighter. So now being lighter is a benefit to going uphill, and performance tyres with four-wheel drive get more traction than they probably should. Those cars are romping up the hill, where the four-wheel drive all-surface cars really should be having a better time of it. So that is something we've got to address. There's another interesting aspect of it, which is the hills in game. If you look at them, they're actually kind of ludicrously steep, like steeper than any real hill anybody drives up in real life. Even the one on the twisty road gets up to like a 30% incline. And we'd actually had a modifier, I believe, treating them as if they were less steep than they are. So in fixing the weight thing, we're like, oh, let's do real physics, let's have it be as steep as it is. And then we find, oh, loads of cars just can't make it up that hill. Car can't get up a hill that's that steep.
No.
So what we're thinking of doing, as well as correcting the traction issue, it's kind of annoying and hard work to remodel all the landscapes and make the hills less steep. We're probably just going to put in a thing and say, all right, it's like a diorama representing a hill, and the real hill is a bit less steep, so that'll make it a bit easier for cars to go up. But meanwhile, we can apply this sort of real physics that we've got to if and when we may put in any licensed tracks that have real world hills, they will behave in the same way that the real world hills do. So that's something that will be quite fun on the horizon.
Handy.
But until then, the traction fix is the first thing we have to do. So yeah, watch out for that.
The next thing is tuning. So we've done something again, haven't we? We've made some changes.
We fixed a thing. Yeah, and it has a knock-on effect.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is going on here with the tuning?
So for a long time, there was a slight problem with the AI, which is that it wouldn't drive in the absolute perfectly optimal way, which could mean that if you upgraded, say, the engine, it would sort of drive faster into a corner, and then it would need to brake for longer to come out, and it just wouldn't use that power optimally, and you could end up with a situation where a more upgraded car would lose to a less upgraded equivalent. And we did a bunch of fixes to that at the beginning of the year, but there were still some cases that were odd. So with this release, PL7, we finally got to the bottom, I think, of almost all of those. I think there might still be one or two like really rare situations where it might still be a bit odd, but almost all of those got cleared up. So it's now driving optimally. But I've got to admit, there's something I think can do better in the future here, which is that we looked at that and we tested all the cases and we tested a bunch of other cases, and we said, did the fix do what we thought? Yes, it did. What we didn't do is look at the knock-on effect to the really deep late meta part of the game about which tuning is best. So I think we're going to definitely be aware of this now next time we make any physics changes. The impact of this is that, well, let's check the terminology. I don't know if we've said this explicitly yet, right? You can tune a car 3.3, 2.3, 3.3, or 2.3, 3.3, 3.3. That's a big mouthful. Don't like saying that all the time. Somebody, I meant to look up the name, I couldn't find it anymore. Let me know if anybody remembers who it was. Introduce this terminology of just how many upgrades is there for each thing. If the engine is at 3.3, that means it's got 9 upgrades. And so that means an upgrade that's 3.3, 2.3, 3.3 could be referred to as 969.
Okay.
And 2.3, 3.3, 3.3 is 699. Yes, that's good. Much more efficient. Easier to say, easier to type.
Yeah, sounds normal.
Exactly. And so with this handling fix, a bunch of players who carefully have tuned these cars to win in the races they know discovered that their, especially 699 cars, were losing to 969 cars in situations where previously that wasn't the case.
Right.
That is a pretty big deal. And so what was surprising was it shouldn't go all one way. Like, these driving errors that the AI was making could apply to any tune in any direction. And so what I've done is I checked a whole bunch of the epic and higher cars that players generally like to tune 699, and I tested them out on every track that's asphalt and has curves, which tune was best before and which one's best now. The first thing to note is that quite a few have changed. I think this is because the difference between two tunes can be very tiny. Like, you can win by 0.03 of a second. Less than that, it's a tie.
Yeah.
And so these slight AI changes actually do have an effect. And so the optimal tune for a track does change in quite a lot of cases. Not more than half, but maybe as many as a third. It's like where 969 used to win, now it's a tie. Or where 699 used to win, now it's 969, or so on.
Right.
But what I found for all these cars, that actually, on average, it does net out, which is what I expected from this fix. So there are many situations where 969 is now better, as there are where 699 is now better, where it wasn't before.
Okay.
Or as many situations where 969 used to win and now it ties, or 699 used to win and now it's ties, or it used to tie and now it's 699, or it used to tie and now it's 969. So it's moved a bunch. The big problem for players is, of course, is that they will have learned which tune is best, and so they won't put their car on a race where they know it's going to lose.
Yeah.
They'll only put it on the ones where they know it's going to win, and then they now find it loses on some of them. So it feels like everything's got worse. But yeah, what I'll say is you probably need to check again. You might find that your car wins in some situations where it used to lose now. I mean, there's a deeper question here about which tune should win in which situation. I've got floated this idea. I don't know if we'd go for it, but I feel like maybe the tunes should actually be more distinct, because the difference is so tiny. It's kind of silly. I wonder if there should be more extreme at each end, maybe. But in particular, you get some odd results, like the slalom that feels like it should be an extremely handling and weight-based challenge actually is hugely about 0 to 60, because you take off the line. The slalom isn't actually that tight, and then you do a huge U-turn and you slow right down, and then your 0 to 60 is really important again. So it's like, should we have a different slalom that is actually more about tight corners, and therefore does what you'd intuitively think a slalom should do, and favour cars with the 699 tune, i.e. they're really light and they've got the best handling? That's one way of doing it. So I mean, this is definitely something we're going to review. It is a side effect, and it's something we're going to watch out for in future when we make physics changes. But overall, there's as many changes one way or another, and in particular that means as well, if there's a car that was better tuned 699 overall in 70% of situations, it's still good in 70% of situations on average, just not quite the same ones. So yeah, you just have to tune and see.
A little bit of homework for you.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Now, one thing that's very important about this episode is that we're doing it in anticipation of the next big event. We've got a really cool prize car, which you can try and get it. It's the Mazda 787B, the Le Mans racer. And I've got Jon here, you may have noticed. I managed to find him, and he's going to tell me and you all about it.
So I think we actually, if anyone's been watching every episode, which obviously everyone should be, probably remember that I think when we unveiled Mazda joining the game, we sort of talked a little bit about the 787B. I think at the time quoted as saying it's widely regarded as the most iconic racing car to really ever come from Japan. I don't think it's not a given with these sort of cars that the proportions just look good, and it's a great looking car. I think the liveries that it generally ran in a lot of the time were really striking, and I think we've probably got the most striking one in terms of the photo in the game. Sort of innovative in the sense that it used the rotary Wankel engine, which is, until recently, Mazda have gone through many iterations and generations of that engine. This was obviously pretty much the most extreme derivative you could possibly get out of that technology. I think rumored to be able to run up to 900 brake horsepower. For something, it's kind of early 90s. It didn't actually run in that form in racing, just for reliability reasons. I think it was around the 700 brake horsepower mark.
Yeah.
But quite an engine. It's meant to be just an unbelievable noise if you're standing near it at any time. Just it's quite distinctive, quite really kind of stood out compared to all the other cars it was racing against at the time. Kind of very successful in Le Mans and other sports car racing, and it's just got to kind of bring it up here. It's there's a pretty impressive all-round stats. 220 miles an hour top speed is putting it right up against the kind of the biggest hitters in that regard. 2.8 to 60, which is very, very solid.
Yep.
And then 95 handling, which is it doesn't get much better than that. I think there's probably only a couple of cars in the game that could top that. And the other thing with this being a full-on racing car is you have the benefit of lightweight. Considering it's that powerful, that fast, it's quite a light car, and so you get that small kind of agility bonus on things like the G-force and the slalom. So it is quite a competitor. So I was just gonna just run a couple of challenges here. I think if we try it against the let me just bring up the McLaren. Everyone loves a McLaren as well. So if we go with 12C, just straight line over a mile, and we can see what it does. Just bring that in. So it's I mean, it should win this, but you get a kind of an idea of its performance here, where it's just 12C is not a slow car, and it's a nice convincing victory over that in completely stock form. I think if we try something else, if we put it onto kind of twisty circuit, let's bring up twisty circuits. So if we do that, and if we do, how about we kind of make it a little bit harder and go for a McLaren, stick with McLaren, but we'll go with a P1.
Ooh.
And we'll see what it could do. Twisty circuit. So again, I mean, quite a tricky competitor, but we'll see what it does here.
Wow.
So around twisty, I mean, it's very, very tight. The P1's just got a slight advantage. I mean, the P1 is a bit quicker off the line, which really kind of helps on a circuit like this. So P1 just kind of pips it there, but there's not much in it. A couple of upgrades over a stock P1, and you're going to win that.
Right.
But if I actually kind of then put it to something like indoor karting, where is indoor karting? I think this is when you should be able to see the kind of that lightweight. So again, I mean, the P1 is not a heavy car by any means, but it does have its extra tech in there, and you can see here that it's a narrow victory. But just that sports car, kind of full sort of racing sports car kind of agility comes into play, and that will be the same in G-force and the same in slalom. So it's a very, very useful car to have in your garage if you're lucky enough to win it. I was actually, just while we're here, I'll show you one other very quick demonstration of one thing that I quite like, which is we talk a bit about, obviously with this being a race car, it's worth noting that it's on slick tires. Mm-hmm. And I don't think many people will do this, but it's worth having a quick look of, slick tires, great. They give it that kind of amazing grip that it's got, and the handling. But if I put this to a fast circuit in the wet, just for a bit of fun, against the mighty Ford Transit, you can see what happens really. So it's slow off the line, it gets back, the Transit gets it through the corner. 787 managed to eventually get its power down, but the Transit is kind of reeling it back in by actually just being able to drive through the corners rather than having to coast. And it's going to be close, and then the 787 just salvages a small amount of dignity.
The mighty Ford
the mighty Ford Transit. But I think it's just I quite like that as a demonstration of the fact that really slick tires in the wet are basically undrivable.
Yeah.
I mean, you may as well be on ice.
Right.
So it's but having said that, still an amazing car. Just be a little bit careful where you use it, or you might get beaten by a Ford Transit. But in the right conditions, right challenges, it's looking at one of the best all-round performance cars in the game.
That's brilliant. Okay, wonderful. So there you go. That's the iconic 787V in prize car form, which is going to be pretty exciting for this weekend's event.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jon, for coming along.
All right, thanks.
Well, there you have it. So those were all the questions and stuff that we got to talk about today. Remember, if you should know the rules by now, but in case you don't, you can leave your questions in the comment section below and we will get to them next episode. We'll be looking at the most liked comments first. So if you see a question that you want answered, then make sure to give it a like or ask it yourself. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us. Make sure to subscribe if you aren't already and hit the notification bell so that you get immediate notifying of our videos when they come out. We've also got a poll running in the community tab on the main YouTube channel, so go back there and answer that if you want to decide what kind of content we're going to produce in future. All that aside, I guess that's it for us this time. So thank you for playing Top Drives, and this has been the Top Drive Show.
Allez, on y va! Okay.